I think that knowing how to change your own tires is a good skill to have, so in this video I'll show you how to do it. Start by unscrewing the valve stem cap. You'll need a valve core tool, which you should be able to find at any auto parts store, to remove the valve core. Place the tool over the core and begin to unscrew it, and you should start to hear air leaking out. Go slowly and hold a little pressure on the tool, because the air in the tire will try to shoot the valve core out once it's unscrewed. You could let all of the air leak out before totally removing the core if you're more comfortable with that. Now it's time to break the bead. That means you need to separate the bead of the tire from the wheel. With many small scooter tires, I do this by standing on the tire to force it off. If you try it this way, you can place a few pieces of 2x4 on the ground to keep weight off of the brake rotor if you have a disc brake installed. I've also used a bench vise to break the bead, and there are quite a few other DIY solutions listed online. I bought these Bead Pro tire irons by Motion Pro not long ago, and they have quickly become my preferred method for breaking beads. The forked iron gets worked between the wheel and the tire. Then the other iron fits into it, and the two handles are squeezed together and used to pry the tire away from the wheel. Once it's free in one spot, work all the way around the tire to break the bead, and repeat the process on the opposite side as well. Use window cleaner or a little soapy water and spray all the way around the bead of the tire. This will work as a lubricant to make removing the tire easier. Insert a tire iron or tire spoon between the wheel and the tire as shown, and pry the tire up and over the rim of the wheel. You may want to use rim protectors or even rags over the wheel as you go, so you don't scratch up your wheel with the tire tools. Work your way around, continuing to pull the tire up and over the wheel. You may need to use 2 tire irons to get started. Some use large screwdrivers for this, but tire tools make the job much easier. After you get about halfway around, you should be able to pull the tire the rest of the way over. Flip the wheel and tire over, and then you can work the wheel out of the other side. Spray the bead with glass cleaner. Push the wheel toward one side of the tire, and then get a tire iron between the wheel and tire as shown, and pry the wheel upward. Again, use rim protectors if you want to avoid scratches. Use a second iron to help pry the bead away from the tire, and before long you should be able to pull the wheel all the way out. Now is a good time to clean your wheel and inspect it. Check rubber around the valve stems for cracking or damage, and replace as needed. Also check around the wheel for any damage where the tire bead sits. If you find sharp areas, you may want to sand them down to avoid cutting the tire. You may also find wheel checking procedures in a service manual. If you'll be reusing your old tire for some reason, be sure to inspect it for damage around the bead, any punctures, and tread life, and repair or replace it as needed. Before you mount a tire back onto the wheel, you need to take note of a couple of things on the tire. First, look for an arrow on the side of the tire that indicates the direction of rotation. This tells you the direction that the tire is intended to rotate in when the scooter is moving forward, usually because of tread pattern or tire construction, so you need to be sure that the tire is mounted on the wheel properly with that in mind. Second, look for a yellow dot on the tire like the one shown. This indicates the tire's light spot, since most tires are not perfectly balanced when manufactured. Not all tires have these markings, and in those cases you only need to worry about the directional arrows. The idea is to align the light spot marking with the wheel's heaviest spot when mounting. The heavy spot of the wheel is assumed to be where the valve stem is, so most advise aligning the light spot marking with the valve stem. The valve stem is not always the heavy spot though, so you can check for the heavy spot using a balancer and place a piece of masking tape where the heavy spot is. The heavy spot is the area that settles to the bottom. Doing this may put the wheel and tire in better balance and could require less weight if you'll be balancing the tire later. Once you're ready to install the tire, spray around one bead of the tire with glass cleaner. Hold the wheel at an angle and start pushing it into the tire, making sure that you're mounting it to obey the directional arrows. You'll probably get roughly halfway around and then have to use tire irons to pry the wheel in as shown. You may want to use rim protectors as you do this. Now rotate the wheel so that its valve stem or found heavy spot aligns with the light spot marking on the tire if your tire has one. Flip the wheel and tire over and then spray that bead with glass cleaner. Use your hands to begin pushing the tire down over the wheel. Once you get it started, push the bead down and in toward the center of the wheel. Keeping the bead toward the center of the wheel where it's more narrow and pushing the tire inward as you work creates more slack to make it easier to get the tire on. After you get as far as you can by hand, use tire irons, and rim protectors if you desire, to work the tire over the wheel the rest of the way around. Check that the light and heavy spots are still aligned. If not, you should still be able to rotate them. Now you need to seat the bead of the tire against the wheel. Start by trying to eliminate as much of the gap between the tire and wheel as you can. I usually bounce the tire against the ground, rotating it as I go to help push the bead close to the wheel. You could also wrap a ratchet strap around the tire to help push the sidewalls out. Then use a strong source of compressed air to finish seating the tire. You'll need an air tank or large air compressor. The small carry-along or 12-volt types probably won't do it. Leave the valve core out and fill the tire through the valve stem until it seats. If the tire is pretty well seated from the previous steps, it may seat uneventfully like this. I broke the bead in one area and then left a bit of a gap to show you what it's more typically like. This time there's a pop as the tire seats. Once the tire seats, stop filling it with air. Place the valve core into the valve stem as shown, then screw it in snug using the valve core tool. Don't over tighten it and strip the threads. Find the manufacturer specifications for tire pressure and fill your tire to spec. Usually you can find this info on a tag or plate somewhere on the scooter or in an owner's manual or service manual. Replace the valve cap and you're done, unless you plan to balance the wheel and tire. Check out my scooter wheel balancing video for more info on that. The first couple of times you change a tire, it can seem difficult or discouraging trying to get the tire on or off, but once you get used to the process, it's not that hard. Learning things like the distance between tire irons for prying that works well for you, and controlling how the tire sits on the wheel to keep a little slack in it can go a long way. I won't say it will ever be a fun job for most, but you may not mind it and it can go pretty quickly. If you enjoyed the video or found it helpful, please like, share, and subscribe for more. Thanks for watching.